Good evening, and welcome to a late edition of the Duluth Conservative.
Yes, it's late, but oh well, we'll survive.
Complicated business, I have to say.
Exactly. Yep.
I got caught into a meeting till 5 o'clock, and usually I work until like 6. But this one, I had an event to go to for Adam Schwarze, who we did an interview with him yesterday and released it today. And so I got there, and then I came straight here. So that's the whirlwind life of a media mogul.
Yeah.
And what were you doing, Dave?
I was checking email.
All right.
And this one, I'm just having problems with mine. So if I disappear.
Just so everybody knows, Dave, destroyer of machines, has now destroyed 2 of my machines, and he's working on one of his own. All right. So let's discuss a little bit. Dave, did you watch the Adam Schwarze interview?
Yeah, I did. I watched the whole thing. So, okay, I just made a few more. So hopefully it won't crash. But anyway, yeah, I did watch it. So I thought it was an interesting guy. He seemed to know what he was going after. I know he seemed to know what he wanted, and that's a good thing. We didn't get into as much detail as I'd like to, but we have a year to figure out a lot of the details of what he knows and what he wants to accomplish. But overall, I thought it was a good. I'm sure we'll have him on again. But it was a good first start to get to know the guy, to see what he's all about. The next time he comes on, we'll start to hammer him pretty hard about the details of.
Now wait a second.
Yeah, he won't be on a third time because we'll corner him and start poking him. But
I'm not cornering that guy ever.
No,
he was a Navy SEAL.
Navy SEAL. No, we're not. Yeah, he does.
No, he's a good guy. He knows what he wants. He's focused. He's intense. He's positive, and I think he's got a pretty good plan. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he'll get the nomination, or if he does get the nomination, then we've talked about him coming up to Duluth and doing a couple of things after that too. This year he's focused on Greater Duluth, or not Duluth, I'm sorry, the outstate. And then next year, if he wins the primary and everything, he will be focusing in on metro areas, because that's where all the votes are.
Correct.
So right now he's going through. So his name is Adam Schwarze. I don't have his. Let's see. Do we have that banner? I had a banner for him created, and I know where it is, right there. So that's his website. If you're interested in Adam, check him out. He's a good guy. He's got some really good ideas, and I think he's a solid citizen. So obviously, only as much as you know from meeting the guy a couple times, but I didn't get any warning signs from him when we talked. So that was good.
Yeah, and right now he only legitimately has Royce White up in there's a few more guys in the pipeline that looking for the Republican nomination, but is legitimately the only one is Royce White that he would be who has a name or who's ran in the past that he's got to worry about. So
right. And in the governor race, so there's going to be apparently a lot of contenders. I met Kendall Qualls last night.
Okay.
Never met the guy before, but I got to hear him talk a little bit, and I think he's a really good candidate. So he comes from a pretty tough home, and he didn't have a lot of money, but like he grew up with his mom first, and then he moved in with his dad later. But none of them. There's no excuse. Even if you're poor, you have no excuse for not having a clean house. Right. Doing your best, working hard. You don't steal, and that's a lot of things that I grew up with as well. We didn't have a ton of money. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we didn't have a ton of money. But it was no excuse to not be clean and not take care of yourself and do your best, and don't go after people's stuff just because you want it.
Right.
And that automatically made me not be a Democrat after I started thinking about that. Because, what can you say? They really like other people's money.
Yeah. Other than they want everything that other people has except their job.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. we want We want your money for teaching. We want your money for school. We want your money for this. But no, you can keep your job.
Right. All right. So before we jump into Duluth stuff, and did you have anything else to talk about with Adam?
No, but I don't know if did you post the interview with him?
Yeah, it got posted to the videos today.
Okay, so yeah, I would definitely if you need to know more about him, definitely check out that video.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you're going to do it after or so, but yeah, and
I wanted to do an interview too, where I didn't want to talk about current topics necessarily, because we could have easily went and talked about the stuff we talk about every week, the LA riots,
Right.
stuff going on with the border. That wasn't my intent. My intent to talking to him was try to get an idea how a guy thinks. So it was more general stuff as opposed to specific, what is it today? Because people can go back to that interview later and check it out too. And it'll still be topical. You'll be able to understand how he thinks, what his priorities are, and then, get more out of it that way.
Yeah, if we see him next year, like I said, we'll start really poking the bear on that one. So
I swear to God, you're going to be the one poking that bear.
No, I'll be remote somewhere. You won't be able to find me. So it'll be fine.
I got questions, and you're not going to find out where I am.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Before we go on to Duluth News and do our normal show, I saw something that really resonated with me, and I want to talk about it a little bit. And there's a woman named Eva Vlaardingerbroek, and I'm sure I butchered her name, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, like 17 letters in her name. And she's fairly well known, but she's got a minute and a half here of talking, and I wanted to show her video and then talk a little bit about how that translates. She's going to talk about Europe. I'm going to say how that translates to the United States. So bring her up and play her video.
He is dead. Stone cold dead. The illusion of democracy is very much kept alive. We are being ruled by leaders who claim that they are democratic leaders, and they force us to play along with their games. In fact, many people do so happily. And that is what makes modern-day tyranny arguably worse than what we see in the history books. In the DDR, you at least knew that the government was listening in on you. In the USSR, you at least knew that going against the government could end you in the gulags. In Mao Zedong's China, going against the government was something that surely would have you met with violence. But make no mistake, being a dissident now is just as dangerous as it was back then. Our regime uses pretty words to hide their intentions, but they pervert and invert our definitions all the time. They say that to maintain peace in Europe, we need to go to war with Russia. They say that to protect democracy, we have to ban right-wing parties. And they say that to safeguard freedom of speech, they need to censor disinformation. Just like in Orwell's 1984, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.
So, pretty powerful. And she's a young lady I've seen do a lot of talks like that.
Yeah.
But, she's right. And that the last statement she said is right from Orwell's 1984. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. I'm looking back in America in the last couple of years, and I've taught you this before, Dave. I've actually had to reassess whether or not I'm going nuts or not, because when people are saying things or having policy decisions or coming up with laws, they completely go against my logical thinking. And it's good if that's happening for you to assess whether or not your logical thinking is actually askew or not.
Correct.
But I looked at some of them and I compiled a little list of things, the 87 genders. Men are women because they say they are. Illegal aliens haven't committed any crimes. Being in this country alone is a crime. If it's not a criminal crime, at least a civil crime. Removing illegal aliens won't free up housing or services. That one got to me at one of the forums I did last year. The statement, I trust science without actually doing science. Science itself is all about not trusting it and verifying for your own self. Even the most basic thing, you're encouraged. If you don't know it for a fact and you really want to know it, go find it out. That's science.
Yep.
Biden suffered no cognitive decline. People were adamant about that. And sometimes I don't know if they argue that because they believe it, or they're just fog of war kind of thing where they just don't want to believe it.
I think they don't want to believe it.
Yeah. And then if you look at COVID, I mean, this is the part that really got me. And it really was a tough time for me to be in that time frame where I heard natural immunity doesn't work. Vaccine, what that is, it's not taking dead cells of a virus and injecting it to you so you could build up an immunity to it. It's this whole other thing, this concoction that we built that has nothing to do with a virus because we can't isolate it. The 6 feet rule, which they, honest to God, had told us now, they just made that up.
Yeah.
There was no basis for that. Closing churches and small businesses will prevent the spread of the virus, but keeping Walmart open will be fine. Mandating masks. Go ahead. What's that?
That one made no sense to me. So
No.
you close everything so everyone has to go to the exact same spot.
Right.
But you want to 6 feet apart.
Concentrate everybody instead of having small businesses open.
Yeah, leave everything open and spread people out.
Yeah. Mandating masks to stop a virus that literally have a warning on them saying these masks don't stop viruses. I mean, literally, it's on the box. As long as you had something on your face, they were fine.
Correct.
And the last one was the one where I actually went to Hawaii at the end of this pandemic, but if I'd have gone a month before, you could go surfing, but you couldn't lay on the beach. And, you know, I could go to a beach even in the busiest time. I'm not within 10 feet of somebody because that's fairly uncomfortable to be that close.
Correct.
On an island that has, you know, a couple, like 1,500 miles of nothing around it except ocean and fresh breeze. And literally, I would be going there when I went there, and it'd be people riding bicycles wearing masks outside on this island. I couldn't understand it. So a lot of what she said, I agree with. I think at least you used to know that the governments that she mentioned were looking at you. And now these ones are like, well, we have to stop spread of disinformation. We have to do this, that. They're trying to make it sound so nice, like they're trying to protect you, but they're doing the same thing that the USSR did and China does. So,
yeah, I didn't add it to the show list, but Moriarty just spent $150,000. She's the Attorney General for Hennepin County. She just spent $150,000 on a publicity, a PR firm to stop misinformation.
I thought it was because her policies were so bad that she needed PR to make them look good.
Well, that's basically what it is, you know, and she's basically, you need to believe what I say, even though I'm completely lying, you know, so she just wasted $150,000 of her budget
Of our money.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the LA riots, because this is another special segment that we're going to do before we get into the regular stuff. I was looking at this, people with foreign flags marching in the U.S. streets, complaining about being in this country. So I understand people who are here illegally wanting to do that because they want to stay. I get that. But the American citizens who are there marching with them, they remind me of the French people that sided with the Germans after they got invaded by Germany, by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Doing what they can to make sure that this happens. I don't understand it. This is another one of those things where it blocks you in the head. They're showing protesters there with Mexican flags. Did you notice the creases in the Mexican flags? Meaning they're not flags that they fly. They're flags that they just bought and are flying them now. And I'm going to share this because I saw this. This comic I thought was kind of funny. Mexican pride, make Mexico again. Okay, Biddy, back to Mexico. No, you can't send me back there. My life is ruined. That pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah, I mean, why can't they, make Mexico great?
Well, yeah, this is just it. I mean, if all the good people are coming here, isn't that bad for their country?
Right. And why aren't they, fixing their country? What else is going on down there that we don't know about that makes them not want to fix their own country?
Right. I mean, here's a good example of what I was talking about. See these lines? That's a brand new flag right out of the bag.
Yeah.
So what, and I know that they're starting to fly American flags now because they got the message that this wasn't the right optic that you wanted to be sitting around waving Mexican flags. American people don't want that. And when Trump invoked the Alien Invasion Act,
yeah,
they're just helping them out. You'd almost think they're working for him.
Yeah, it was when I was at the gym, they had Fox News on, and the reporter commented that all he could see was Mexican, El Salvador, and Venezuelan flags flying.
Venezuelan flags.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't see, obviously they're immigrants, illegal immigrants from that country too, but to get involved in the LA riots was kind of strange to me, but
yeah.
If
I'm going to show you.
Get back.
So Maxine Waters, she's representative, and she is this time's Pelosi and Schumer. So last time when Trump was president, Pelosi was hoisted up and Schumer were hoisted up to be the opposition. Now it seems like Maxine Waters has become the opposition because I see her face all over the place. And I think she's from California. So it kind of makes sense that she'd be doing this. But I want to share what she had to say about one of the things she had to say about it. Here we go.
And he's using deportation as a way to enhance his position with all of those right-wingers out there who do not want this country to be a country of people coming from other places. It's outrageous. It is horrible.
So the people who don't want this country to be a country of people that come from other places, shouldn't we be a country of our people? She wants to basically import everybody into this country.
And we've got to make sure that we do everything that we possibly can, because I think he's up to creating martial law. He even alluded to
we got the National Guard here.
What do you think
National
about
Guard for what?
What do you think about the National Guard being here, Trump deploying them and not our own governor?
Well, the thing about it is, I don't know why they're here with guns. Whom are they going to shoot, and for what? Are you going?
Okay, so first of all, why do they have guns? Why do you think they have guns? You see what these protests get like? I mean, that's just a ridiculous, obtuse statement to say. And then this next part, this is where they pull in that emotion that we always talk about.
Going to shoot a kid running away just because they're afraid of them?
Are they going to shoot a kid for running away because they're afraid of him? Pretty sure that's a pretty big slap in the face to the National Guard.
Yeah.
Are you going to shoot a protester because you don't like what they're saying? Why are the guns? Why are these guns here? That's my question. I don't get why the guns have to be here. We're a sanctuary city. We know Trump doesn't like us. We know that he's going to try to use us as an example. He's going to try to goad us so that he has a martial law. He even alluded to civil war at one point.
She is the one who alluded to civil war, and she's the one that called on people to come out into the streets and disrupt any representative you saw that you didn't like. She's eggs this stuff on, and then like a lot of these protesters that go up to the cops, they spit at them, they throw things at them, and then when the cops respond finally, why are you doing this?
I don't understand. Yeah.
No, it's just defies logic.
I've seen a lot of those rubber bullets that they're shooting at people, and they leave a pretty good welt. So obviously they hurt pretty well. But all the pictures that I've seen, they're always on the front of people. They're never on the back of people. That means that they're facing the guns when the people are pulling the fake triggers or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
They're not running away. They're running towards the police.
Yes.
So,
and there's lots of evidence of it where they just instigate, and then all of a sudden they get the cop does something, even if it's just to grab them, and it just is squealing like, how dare you, and why are you doing this? And I just don't understand. And it's crazy. I mean, it defies logic. It gets one of those things that you just look at and say, what is actually going on here?
Yeah.
And I'm going to skip forward a little bit to this thing. So just like the Democrats do, or I want to say the Democrats, and it's not all Democrats. I know that there's good Democrats and there's a lot of people that just think passionately. There is an organization of group that really tries to manipulate the response. And so somebody has gotten the idea that what they need to do is get the TikTokers to all say the same thing. And it gets very apparent after a very short period of time. So I'm going to share this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play a bit of it.
Being in a country that you're in illegally is a civil offense, not a criminal.
Well, something doesn't like me.
Criminal one. You know what else is a civil offense? Jaywalking.
And being undocumented is not a criminal offense. It's a civil one. And if you've ever jaywalked, congratulations, because you've also committed a civil offense.
Have you ever sped over the speed limit? Have you ever drank or smoked underage? Have you ever drank and then driven a car? What about jaywalking?
Okay. So that gives you a flavor of what they're talking about. It goes on.
Right.
It's way too many people, but it's the narrative. This is what you're going to talk about. And, I would like to know if these people that are talking about it know the difference between civil and criminal and why it is. Being a civil offense means they can push them back to their own country without having to bring them to trial, which is the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's more of it's not even really for what I've learned, it's not even a civil, it's administrative. So they're not, because they're doing something that they didn't fill the proper paperwork out, it's administrative. Therefore, they don't fall under the due process laws. They don't fall under,
right.
They just, they can be grabbed and removed from the country. Right. And if they're going to be hostile towards the police officer, then they're going to get locked up and then brought out of the country.
Right.
So the due process, I'm tired of the due process law that you hear nonstop, because they don't get awarded that. So
yeah, I'm also tired of this false equivalency of hopping into our country illegally is the same as jaywalking. It's not. There's a huge consequence for having an illegal here as opposed to jaywalking. And in fact, if you're a legal immigrant and you jaywalk, that doesn't mean I want to deport you from my country. But if you come in here illegally, I do want to deport you from my country.
Yes.
And so it's just this trying to get this emotional thing. Well, yeah, you're right. It's like jaywalking. It's exactly like jaywalking. In fact, they just jaywalked across the, country lines. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is you mentioned the riots in Ireland. So there is something going on in Ireland, just like similarly to what is going on in LA, where there is a lot of unrest and places are being burned down.
Yep.
That was because of a couple of 14-year-old girls that were sexually assaulted. And local Irish.
Let me correct you on that one.
Okay.
For what I heard or what I read was two 14-year-old boys sexually molested a 14-year-old or a underage girl. That was what the article said.
Okay.
So, and the two boys pled not guilty in court. So they found out who the guys were and arrested them. And the locals weren't happy about the massive increase in sexual assaults from illegal aliens.
Yeah.
So they're basically burning the place down.
Yeah, and we talked a little about this before the show, and although they were doing it, I don't endorse them burning down these places. I understand the frustration though, and I think it's a different level of frustration. Where I think here it's manufactured, and for a different reason, where you've got illegal people being deported legally out of the country, as opposed to Ireland, where they are seeing a huge influx of immigrants as well, and a lot of assaults happening to their people. and they've just grown tired of it because their government and their police are actively against them as well. You can't do anything about it there.
Right. Yeah, it's the end result is still wrong, and you can still protest, but you don't have to burn things down.
Right.
And the first thing for them should be to, if they're that angry, is to organize and get rid of the politicians.
That would be a good first step. Yeah.
Vote them right out of office.
Right. And also, and it's different in Ireland, I think, than it is here, but they're very similar to us, but it is innocent until proven guilty. So,
right.
And I don't know the specifics of the case clearly because I misspoke about it at the beginning. So I can't say whether or not they know these people did it or not, but the right answer is not burning things down. But at least I can understand their frustration of why they got to the point they did.
And there has been found a lot of internet ads to pay people to protest in Los Angeles and other American countries. So it's not in Ireland. At least it's a localized protest.
Yeah, it's organic.
It's organic. Where in the U.S. it's paid for by someone really rich, and we need the Doge boys to get on that to find out who's paying to burn it down.
Not the Doge boys. This is the district attorney. This is Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi.
Yeah, and she said they're looking into where the money is coming on for these things. Coordinated signs, a website goes up. It's got a lot of coordination on that as well. There's stuff happening on Saturday I'm not even going to talk about because I don't even want to give it any kind of media coverage. But there's a lot of stuff happening that seems very coordinated. These flags that are being sent out in these protests, they don't come by accident. People aren't buying them. They're given those flags. People are given face masks. There's a lot of Bolshevik kind of things happening here.
And that's accessory to a crime.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an easy way to put them in jail too for,
right.
Have them pay for the destruction that they're creating. So.
Okay, we're 27 minutes into it, and we haven't even gotten to our Duluth news yet. So let's rack it up here. I'm on page 4 of 13.
There we go. I couldn't even figure out the.
All right. Woo. The Duluth City Council approves a permit for homeless people to park overnight at the church. It was a unanimous vote, but that's a little misleading because 3 people weren't there. Eric Forsman, Tara Swenson, and Lynn Nephew were not present for the vote. So it was unanimous for the people that showed up. It was a quorum.
So they had enough people.
But and so I don't know why those 3 weren't at the set. It would be nice if they were, because this would have been a good thing to know how they stood on the issue. But for the people that did, I hope the people in Duluth are paying attention, that the city councilors that were at that meeting are taking the people who are homeless and their rights, putting them above the citizens who live in that area, the taxpayers, the property owners, the people with families who said they did not want those people at that site. The city councilors said, that's all right. We're going to do this and you're going to live with it.
Yeah. And even though in the civil suit that the neighbors made against the city broke laws about fence sizes and types of fences and location of fences, and none of that got changed. So for our counselors in the city of Duluth, they don't care that they're breaking the law. It's for them, it's whatever they want to do, and they're going to break the law regardless.
Right.
So once again, you're not being represented by your people. You need to replace these people. Exactly.
And I hope the people in Duluth are starting to wake up to that this is a consequence of your voting habits. Even if it's like, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm just going to vote for whoever my organization says to vote for, my church says to vote for. Obviously they can't do that or they lose their status, but do your homework, find out what these people are voting for and see if that's good for your community or not.
Yeah.
Now, Katie Hagland, executive director of the Union Gospel Mission, said this. She said, without safe pay, many would be pushed deeper into crisis. This is about real people, parents reading bedtime stories in the back seat of a minivan, workers waking up in the parking lot before heading for their jobs. Safe Bay is one of the few places in Duluth who says, you still belong here. You still matter. Very emotional, very, very kind. She's able to do all this kindness with other people's money, putting other families at risk.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the Union Gospel Mission does it, but why can't they help out? Why can't they get some property out in the dock area, someplace away from people, or segregated at least away from families with neighborhoods, in neighborhoods with small children, and have them go out there? Because like we said last week, once they leave that parking lot in the morning because they have to get out, they're just in that neighborhood. So now they're just spreading around that area. So you've taken a concentration that were in downtown and now moving them up to a Kenwood area that's ill-equipped to handle that. All right. Seawall is finished at the deck. Have you seen this? Have you been down there at all?
No, I have not been down there.
So the first cruise ship dock there, I should have put a picture up here. I didn't do it. So I happened to walk through the Skyway out through the deck, and I walked over to the canal, oblivious. I walked back, and there was that big freaking ship right there. And I missed it when I went there. Just got, it was blocked by a couple of vans, and then I never looked back.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome to see that huge ship docked right there next to the deck. So what's your beef, Sean? I don't have a beef. I think it's good they did it. I think they rebuilt that whole section. They're still working on it, so they're not quite done with it. They rebuilt that just for this purpose, because these ships were parking out in Superior and they'd have to ferry them in with little ships or little boats. But they weren't, I've never heard them say that. I've never heard them say that's why we built it. And here's the thing that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. And I've been pretty nice to Roger Reinhardt. I think he's doing a good job. And this isn't a huge thing, but I'm going to say what he said. He called on the locals to reframe their thinking as to what constitutes the front and back of the deck. He suggested the waterfront truly should be considered the front door to the facility and community, especially as Duluth works to build its nascent cruise ship industry. Not long ago, Reinhardt recalled that the space between the deck and the waterfront was dominated by a road that often conflicted with people trying to enjoy the space. Allow me to retort. That was a very nice parking area. I used to go down there all the time. I used to run down there. I never saw a problem down there. And for them to say the front door of the deck or Duluth is the ship going place shows you exactly what politicians do. They put other people first before the local people.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I think this is something we paid for with our tax dollars. And it's good to be proud of it. But at the same time, don't tell us to reframe our thinking to say, well, yes, thank you for coming. We don't need tourism that bad to just bend down for everything that the other people outside our community need. I think this is a nice thing for us as a Duluthian, but I don't think we should consider it our front door. Thoughts, Dave?
Well, two things. One, how does a cruise ship sell Duluth as a port? Hey, we're going to go to Duluth. Why? They're
doing it. I mean,
okay. To me, that's just confusing. Number two, how much tax money are we actually going to get from 2 or 3 cruises a year to pay for the seawall? They're going to come in, they're going to buy some t-shirts, but clothing isn't taxed in Minnesota, therefore we're not collecting anything. They'll go to a restaurant or two maybe. So, there's $100 in tax per ship. Oh, we just dropped 20 million or whatever the number was on building the seawall.
22 million.
22 million? Yeah. So how many thousands of years is it going to take to get tax money to pay for that wall?
Okay, so their estimate is they projected there's 9 cruise ships coming in. In 2025 will combine to inject more than $10 million into the local economy. So 374 passengers times 9. So that's roughly 3,700 people coming in. $10 million into local economy. Now, they say it's in 2025, so it'd be this year.
Yeah.
They did need to rebuild. I think they did have to rebuild it, or at least that's what they said at first. It was, we need to rebuild this because it's crumbling. And it makes sense. And if they're going to redo it, that's fine. I mean, they're going to spend that money anyway. I disagreed with putting trees there and plants and narrowing the road, because that was a necessary road to get in and out of the deck and places to park too. But I mean, if they're right, if they're honest and they're right, it'll take 3 years to recoup that money.
Well, and then they have all this space, and then the first thing they do is they go put up that Heart Duluth thing to take up space. So I don't know. Personally, I'm against it, but because I think it's just ridiculous and stupid. But I see everyone's taking their picture with it, and
I was down there. So like I said, I was down there, and I went running down there later that afternoon. There are a lot of people that came off that boat. I mean, it was busy, and that's got to be good for the businesses. So I'm happy with it. I wish they would have been honest and said, and maybe they were, and I just missed it, but I never heard them say this is going to be because we want the ships ported. But you could tell, because if you'd been down there before, anytime there was one of the ships, they had to jerry rig up customs port, and then they had to have people come in and out. And so, and having it parked out in Superior, that was a problem. So it's good for the boats. I think it's good for Duluth. It's funny to see that big freaking boat here. I got a picture of it here, so I'm going to put it up. And this is what I walked past. I'm not proud of it. I mean, sure. See how I could miss that? I walked out of these doors here. Now there was 2 vans sitting right here. I walked out of these doors and went on over the bridge. And then as I was walking back, I was like, geez. And you know where this is from? Bahamas.
Oh, really? Well,
that's what it said.
I mean, that makes sense, because most of the cruise lines are from foreign countries, because the taxes are so god awful high in America that they go to cheap countries to register their boats. So but to me, that makes relative good sense. But
I want to say it originated in Jamaica or something, but I'm not sure.
I could believe it. I definitely could believe it. So
it says it's likely to be substantially completed before Grandma's Marathon, which is coming up next weekend, I believe. Right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Grandma's Marathon's coming up, so if you can, if there's still openings, we volunteered last year, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I haven't looked into doing it this year, but we should look into that, Dave.
I have been volunteered already. I think there were 10 people running the full and 1 person running the half. So
holy cow.
Yeah, so I'll be chauffeur this year. So
you're driving everybody out there at the starting line?
Basically, that's what it sounds like. So that's the problem with having a really big truck.
Get rid of that. Help people move.
Yep.
All right. Shall we move on to Minnesota Legislature?
Yeah.
I want to show people who haven't heard this, and I want to show people the Duluth News Tribune endorsed Representative Alicia Kozlowski talking at the Minnesota Legislature. And then I'll get your reaction after we do that. If I can find it, that's the one. All right, you ready? Here we go.
And who's not, we're standing on the stolen land and the halls of power that were built on stolen labor, in which no one can be illegal on stolen land. And who's not.
Stolen land.
Slave labor.
Built by slave labor. This is the representative of the east side of Duluth. This is what she believes. She and Pete Johnson both voted against the legislation to kick people off of Minnesota healthcare that are illegal aliens. That cost us $600 million this year alone.
Right.
And she just wants to have more and more and more spending, no income, just more spending. But this, I just can't believe it. Let me play it one more time.
And who's not. You know, we're standing on the stolen land and the halls of power that were built on stolen labor, in which no one can be illegal on stolen land.
Stolen land.
No
Why
one
are
can
people
be
voting
illegal.
for her? What's
No
that?
one can be illegal on stolen land. That
Yeah. Oh,
doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
right. So why do people vote for her? Do you have any clue?
She's not she can't even be calling herself a Democrat anymore because she's so far left of that party that the only reason I could ever see someone voting because she has a D by her name, and that's what Duluthians do.
Yeah.
Oh, we just go in and vote for a D.
It's
so
ridiculous. And Pete Johnson too. What's his excuse? What is Pete Johnson's excuse for voting for keeping illegal aliens onto healthcare? And then why would people vote for a guy like that? If you can explain that to me someday, I'd really want to know.
yeah, no one's in our comment board chiming in on that one
Yeah.
because nobody knows.
So this was a little funny. This state representative said the following.
Because his mother had died, my father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country.
So she said that she's illegal in this country. I took her word for it. See, that was my fault.
Yeah.
So I posted something on my Facebook saying, hey, we not only have illegals voting in our elections, they're actually making the laws. And then somebody pointed out, well, she's a naturalized citizen. And then she came out afterwards and said, oh, yeah, I was just trying to, get people to listen to me. So she came out a couple hours later and said, I'm a naturalized citizen. But that's how, what was she doing, Dave? Using emotion.
Yeah, using
right?
emotion. Not
emotion.
Truth, not a fact,
right.
She's lying.
Yet she was here illegally. Now the interesting thing to me is, to be a naturalized citizen, you have had to have entered the country legally. So she really might be illegally in this country.
Right.
So I was excited for a while that we were going to kick another Democrat out of the House, but nah, don't think it's going to happen.
No, I mean, they won't. They're not even going to they didn't kick the one out for allegedly robbing her in-laws' house. So,
all right.
Which is going to start like June 16th or something like that. So if they won't kick her out for doing something like that, then,
right.
Not being a citizen, they'll probably give her free college and a new house.
Yeah, right. I just want to talk about one of the bills by Pete Stauber. Pete's a really nice guy. He passed something called the Think Differently About Disabled Employment Act, HR 1634. It's a bill aimed at increasing employment opportunities for individuals with disability by fostering collaboration between the Small Business Administration and the National Council of Disability. Key provisions of the bill are requiring the SBA and the National Council on Disability to enter into more memorandum of understanding to provide assistance to individuals with disabilities who wish to become entrepreneurs or be self-employed, helping individuals with disabilities find employment at small businesses, and assisting small businesses with hiring individuals with disability. That probably means money. Conducting outreach and education about these activities and submitting a report to Congress. My question is, how is this different from DEI? This sounds like the same thing to me.
Yeah, other than these people have an actual disability.
Oh, yeah, right.
But they already do that. If you look at any job listing, they say, if these doesn't work out, please call this number and someone will help you apply for this job.
Right. There's American Disabilities Act.
Yeah. I don't see any difference from this to ADA. It's like, is he trying to correct something?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. But if you look throughout his history, he has several bills on this, and he does have a child with autism, I believe. And
okay.
So, I mean, great. I'm all about, just disabled people need help. They need extra help. Good. I just don't understand the constant bills and how this does anything other than, like you said, the ADA.
Yeah, I mean, I've know like there are groups that help people with Down syndrome find those people jobs, something they can handle, something repetitive. We talked about this briefly last week about Gino Palucci. He was hiring a lot of line workers that had mental disabilities.
Yeah.
And the state still didn't like him for whatever reason. I don't know. But that's another story.
It seems like something that's a great thing for a nonprofit to do.
Correct.
To me.
Yeah. It shouldn't be the government's responsibility, but I know there's nonprofits out there that are doing this type of work.
Yeah.
And so I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to accomplish with this bill that hasn't already been accomplished by the ADA bill. So
right. It begs the question, if there's already nonprofits doing it, why does the government need to be involved with it? It seems like a solution looking for a problem. Not that there isn't a problem, but what I'm trying to say is that government probably has other things to do than this, and there's other organizations that could handle this.
Right.
So we got a thing on what passed in the Minnesota legislation in the special session, which they negotiated in private, right? And then they revealed what the outcome was when they had a decision. And I don't know how that all works. I mean, you explained it to me last time, which is so that they can do these meetings in secret or without the press involved and without people seeing it.
Yeah.
It also seems like getting people to work for no money, right? They don't get paid while they're not in special session. They got done being paid when they got done with session, right?
As far as I know, and I don't, maybe, did they get extra money for being in a special committee? So that's why they're.
I don't think so. I think they wanted to keep the negotiations down to the few amount of people as they could.
Okay.
Because otherwise it could have gone on for months. And I believe that what came out was, and the first thing that passed is a ban on illegal aliens, adults enrolled in Minnesota care, which goes against the wishes of both the representatives from Duluth. They wanted illegals enrolled. So they were able to get that out by one vote. And it was a deal they struck. If nobody else would vote for it, the sacrificial lamb had to vote for it. So the person that did vote for it was predetermined before it even went in.
Correct. Yeah.
An increase to the cannabis tax from 10 to 15%. So what they're going to do is tax it out so that people just grow it themselves and not tell the government anymore.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand is this will not change the illegal activities whatsoever because of government regulations. Yeah. And this is 15% on top of the sales tax.
Oh, really?
That's what I heard.
The sin tax.
Yeah, so this is 15% sin tax. So you're 21.5% to buy cannabis.
Boy, they can really smell money, can't they?
Yeah, I'll have to check that, but that's what I heard. So we'll have to look into it.
See, a repeal of electricity tax exemption for data centers, which is what Amazon said. Okay, then we're not building anything there.
Right. So they just lost a ton of money there.
A reduction of the paid family and medical leave tax from 1.2% to 1.1%. So what's that?
That is something that they did under the trifecta.
This is where they're forcing me to give people 21 days off, right?
Correct. So if you want to take a couple months off of work, then and you can't fire them, and you have to and you're going to pay a tax on that also. So so as a business owner, you have to, pay a temp agency to replace them, and a tax to help pay for it. So,
right. And when you talk about something like my business, I can't do that. I can't find a temp. You're talking about a nursing home. They can't find employees to begin with. So finding a temp is almost impossible for them.
Right.
That's where the burden goes. And that's why you're seeing all these nursing homes and childcare centers going under, is because of things like this.
And then more tax on them. So,
right. Expansion of unemployment benefits to iron ore miners in greater Minnesota. We talked about that in a previous show. I don't understand why it needs to be extended out. I feel for the guys that or the men and women that are getting laid off. They get a lot of time for unemployment already. So, but they're going to get that extra time. A reduction of grant funds that go to abortion-related services. So we have grant funds that go to abortion-related services here?
Well, yeah, because that's money going to Planned Parenthood and organizations like that, which are basically abortion farms. So
Legislation that defunds the planned Northern Lights Expressway or Railway. Yeah. Hey, that's something I ran on last time. So can I take that as a win?
You would, yeah. They're finally listening to the show.
I know.
Finally listening to the show.
You know, what can I say? I got that through. Didn't even have to be part of the legislation to do it. You know, wasn't really that hard. Correction of state law that would have an inadvertently banned manufacturing of new keys. You told me about this one. This was insane. And I saw Natalie's Lesnicar railing about this too.
See, we know people are listening to us because we brought this up a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So they're basically, July 1st, your keys in your pocket won't be illegal.
Yay! So, you'll still be able to get keys.
So the cops can't arrest you for having keys in your pants pocket.
What did not pass this year? A creation of a sales tax on legal, accounting, and brokerage services. They were going to put a sales tax on that. Oh, yeah. That would have been a disaster. God, they cannot conceive of the concept of just spending less money, can they? They just keep getting more. A reduction of the sales tax from 6.875 to 6.8. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Creation of an excise tax on social media companies. I read about this. I could not believe this tax. It was incredible. It was going to be a certain amount, and then for every million over an amount, they kept jacking it up. It was repeal of government aid to non-public students.
So basically it means private schools, charter schools will still keep their funding. Walz wanted to get rid of all the funding to charter schools, private schools.
Thank God.
That got put a stop to.
I think I told you I went to Edison Private School for a tour. What a great place that is.
Yeah.
Great teachers. They're dedicated. The kids were really good. They had they were just active, and they had different ways to teach. And I'm not saying everybody has to go to one of those, but why would we cut the money? Should follow the kids. Where the kids go, the money should go to that place.
Correct. Yeah.
Legislation that would legalize sports gambling. We've talked about this before, and I've told you many times, I couldn't care less if we can do sports gambling in Minnesota.
Yeah, the voters, only 78% of the voters want legalized sports gambling, so we better not pass that.
Right. Well, like I said, I don't care about it, but if people want it, I would push for it, But the problem I had with it was they had built in, well, we're going to have these gambling addicts, so we have to set up all these other programs to help that too. If you're funding something is going to have that kind of an adverse effect, maybe you don't want to do it.
And the sin tax was going to be a lot higher than that than on cannabis. It was like 20% sin tax.
Oh yeah, it's the money, man.
Yeah, it's
creation of a statewide office of the Inspector General to investigate fraud. Guess who voted against this?
Right.
I'll give you two guesses. Duluth News Tribune. Duluth News Tribune endorsed Representatives Alicia Kozlowski and Pete Johnson from Duluth voted against a statewide office to create an Inspector General to investigate fraud. They don't want to stop it.
No, they've been shown how much fraud there is, and they just decided not to fund it.
A new tax bracket applied to individuals earning more than $250,000. What a great way to make people flee the state.
Yeah.
A fantastic way to lose a lot of wealth in the state. I had that forum last time I was talking about at UMD where I said, people of wealth are fleeing the state. And the kid said, well, actually, we're getting more people in the state. I said, yeah. I didn't say the population was going down. I said the people with wealth are going down. you're getting more people that are in poverty coming into the state. That's a bad combination. You want the actually inverse of that. And a ban that would, last thing that did not pass, a bill that would ban localities from being sanctuary jurisdictions for illegal aliens. So that's a lot of negatives there. So what is this?
It means cities can still claim to be sanctuary cities.
Oh boy, that's going to lose us some federal funding.
Yeah. And that's what Walz was on Capitol Hill for today, arguing, saying that Minneapolis or Minnesota was not a sanctuary state, and he never authorized that, and blah blah blah.
We were this close. They were this close to passing a law last year to make us a sanctuary state.
Yeah. So he went on saying that there was no such thing. He's just covering himself, trying to go to, trying to be president, and that's how he's going to do it.
So question, how many bills chief authored by our 2 Duluth representatives have passed now?
As far as I was looking at that today, and as far as I could tell, nothing.
Yeah. Goose egg.
Yep.
Nada.
Nothing.
I believe, and I've got to investigate this, so don't take my word on it. I don't think anything that Alicia has ever chief authored has ever made it through.
As far as I could tell, no, because I was looking to see how not motivated, but how efficient they were. Were they able to accomplish anything?
Mm-hmm.
And no, everything they've done as even when they had the trifecta, Kozlowski could not get anything through because even her bills were so bad and so racist that it wouldn't go through.
It seems like our 2 representatives serve 2 purposes for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Kozlowski is the one that's the unhinged, calling this stolen land, saying that everything we do is illegal, but she's still part of the government that runs, the place that's stolen. And Pete is there to vote for everything. For anything they tell him to vote for, he just votes for it. I don't see any pattern or any kind of desire or any kind of focus on him. He's all over the place. I mean, he's like a shotgun. I can follow Alicia's most of the time. Okay, yeah, it has to do with Hispanics, has to do with natives. It has to do with giving away tax dollars. That's Alicia. Pete's just all over the place. I can't find rhyme or reason for what he does.
Yeah, and he's basically just a sheep doing what he's told. He falls in line to whatever the Democrat Party wants him, and that's so that's
it seems like that's his role. He's serving a role, and that's it.
He's serving the Democratic Party like a true lemming. So
right. Okay, we are an hour into this, and we're on page 8 of 13. So I'm going to start pushing down on these a little bit, maybe skipping some stuff. So let's go on to Tim Walz. Walz says that Trump is ghosting states. He said that that they're not calling him, they're not giving him the attention he wants. Vance hasn't called him up and said, next time I'm in Minnesota, just you and me, we're going to go out and get a nice dinner. I'll leave my phone at home. I'll pay attention to you.
They can hold a hand, walk around Lake Nokomis,
exactly.
or Lake Calhoun.
Yeah. So he said that this is what Pence would do when he was in the first term. And Walz said that there were a lot of great people inside the first Trump administration that, in spite of the president, we're doing good work. Well, I've got news for you, Timmy. Trump is doing good work.
Yep.
And Pence calling you kind of confirms some more stuff about Pence that we always knew. And then he also said something that he said that there's not a cow in Minnesota that's not being milked by an immigrant. I actually contacted 2 dairy farms to find out if that was true, and neither one responded to me. But I wanted to find out, is that true? Do they still bring up the wooden stump and start manually milking the cows, or is somebody just popping on a machinery and then milking the cows automatically?
I've seen some History Channel segments on milking cows, and it's all automated now. They The cows stand on a thing and they wash the udders and put the machine on the udders, and then there's like a conveyor belt that goes away, and when they're done being milked, there's barely any labor attached to it. So
the thing I've talked about too, and we'll just bring this up kind of as a side conversation, is they say that the immigrants here do the work that Americans won't do. That's pretty insulting. I mean, you look at our history, we've done the dirtiest jobs, and there's still people that have to do the dirtiest jobs. I took a tour of the Duluth sanitation plant.
Yeah.
You want to see some bad jobs, and they weren't immigrants doing them, as far as I can tell. I mean, you can't tell an immigrant by looking at them, but we've done jobs throughout our history that are not nice. And to think we're that mamby-pamby and too high up in ourselves to do it, if the job needs to get done and there's a way to do it and you need a job, then you'll do it. It's this coddling of everybody that makes them not do jobs because they're too high up for it. But as things go down, they find out they will do it.
Yeah, and it's all supply and demand too. Will you do this job for absolutely no money? Well, most college people won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're desperate, then they might do that. So by having illegals in, it's keeping the price of labor extremely far down. That's what Democrats are probably looking for now. You keeping the labor down.
It also stifles innovation, because one thing that makes people innovate is having a problem they don't know how to solve.
Correct.
So I'll give you one example of how this is all working out. You keep raising the minimum wage. The fast food places have figured out they can just have a kiosk where people order, and they need less people up front.
Correct.
Because now a lot of people pay with credit cards, or you can even do cash. But you go up to a kiosk, and it's not that hard. It's not hard to check your own stuff out of a grocery store, but I still go to the lanes with people in them because I want to make sure they continue to keep their job. So, all right, we'll go on to the next thing. Judge certifies a class action lawsuit of undercover officers who say that the state compromised their identities. And here's a quote said from the attorney, Chris Maddle. It's profoundly shocking how the post board, handpicked by Tim Walz and represented by Keith Ellison, can take the position that it has no obligation to keep undercover officers' identities private. So this is, again, throwing cops under the bus.
Yeah.
The cops need to know when they're doing their job, the government officials have their backs. It can't be the case that if something goes wrong, the first thing you say is to the cop is, what did you do wrong? It's, let's see the circumstances and see what happened, but I believe you until I've shown otherwise. And that's the only way the police officers can work. Otherwise, they won't take the necessary risky steps they have to do to protect people.
Right. And that's why the Twin Cities I haven't heard about it in Duluth, but the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, both the city councils wanted to take immunity away from the police department. So anybody could sue them civilly for anything that they did wrong.
Right. And you see the protests? They spray them with stuff and the cop then reacts. They'll sue them for that.
Right. So basically, no one would ever be a police officer in either of those cities because they would get sued, 100 times a day.
Right.
And they would go bankrupt, So basically that would, for them, that's what the Twin Cities wants, is they want to get rid of cops. And that was one way that they were going to do it. It didn't make it through, but
they tried.
They're trying. So this is another way for them to get rid of cops, is by, putting their information publicly so that, their families get attacked.
Right.
Basically.
All right. Sorry about that. I was trying to find something for later. But you're right. You're absolutely right. They wanted to get rid of the cops. And what I was afraid of is they were going to nationalize the cops, which would be worse. We need local guys and girls to be our cops. In fact, it would be best if they lived in the city that they were patrolling. That may be kind of hard to do logistically, but it doesn't seem impossible.
Yeah.
All right. Minnesota AG Keith Ellison says current executive overreach is new in the country's history. he must have forgotten what it was like during the Civil War in this country. I don't know. Or, when the Democrats put the Japanese people in the internment camps, for instance.
Yeah, which they're trying to use. Trump is currently using the Invaders Act to.
Right.
That's how they put the Japanese in internment camps.
So he says, until now, we've never had a president who's decided, I'm going to wreck the administrative state. I'm going to persecute the press by suing them. I'm going to persecute law firms. I'm going to ignore the courts. This is new. So Trump is suing a newspaper or a news organization for libel. It's not a presidential action. It's a personal one. He's not persecuting any law firms. In fact, I'm not sure Keith, the AG, knows what persecuting means.
No.
And he can disagree with the court orders, but he's not ignoring them at all.
Right.
And I would really like to know why the Minnesota AG is working so hard against the federal government. We've got things to do here. We've had almost $800 million worth of fraud the last couple of years. What are you doing about it? Keith, you're not doing anything about it. You're suing Trump.
Yeah, all he's doing is taking money from the perpetrators, or whatever you want to call them. And I just seen that they found another person. They just arrested another lady for feeding our future fraud. So
yeah,
another one's, so who's doing that? Is it the feds doing that?
What I'm waiting for is the administrative and government workers that were involved with it to get arrested. That's what I'm waiting for. All right, let's move on to Minnesota news, unless you got something else with Timmy.
No, we know Walz is a failure. So what do you do?
I know somebody, I'm not going to say who, because you know who it is, said, Dave really doesn't like Tim Walz. I said, yeah.
Yeah, who does really?
He should lay off on him a little bit. I said, nah, I think he's doing a fine job. All right, Minnesota news. A protester was charged with obstructing police during a Minneapolis raid. They say the man, 33, sprayed an unknown substance in an officer's face. I'll show you a picture of the guy. Now, you let me know. No judgment here. If you saw this guy in the street, would you think solid citizen, or you might be a little afraid? That is one intense looking young man.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be high on cocaine when you have your photos taken, especially by you're booking photos. Look at the eyes, the way they're dilated, and
well, that's just it. Yeah, the eyes are the thing that concern me the most. Everything else is fine. I mean, if I had hair, I might have it like that. Who knows? But these eyes, man, that is something in there, man. That is a 1,000-mile stare.
Right.
Shouldn't make fun of people. I know.
Yeah.
What is this one? This mascot that represents everybody. Let's see. I'm going to put it up here so everybody can see it. And you put this on here so you get to talk about it.
Well, yeah, they did. Some school in St. Paul just created a new mascot and everyone is so proud of it because they said it represents everybody. And you look at the picture, and I'm thinking,
black guy.
Yeah, how does that? So I went and looked up the demographics, and it's 45% white, 27% African American, 10% Asian. Well, he doesn't look Asian. If it,
No.
The only thing so the more I read it, the more I started laughing because I kept thinking of the mascot from the community,
the human being.
Yeah, the human being, because he actually was supposed to represent everybody too, and
it was a frightening, horrifying one.
Yeah, and I think this one is just as ridiculous as how does that represent everybody in the school when it clearly is not.
I think we owe it to people to show them what we're talking about. So I will now present the Greendale human being, is what they called it.
So you have it?
I got it right here.
Okay.
Nightmare fuel. If you've not ever watched Community, it is a fantastic show, but my God, you feel bad after every episode. But they worked on an episode to come up with a mascot that represented everybody, and this is what they came up with. It was nightmare fuel, like I said.
Exactly. It was a pretty funny episode though, for them working on it. Chevy Chase and another gentleman that's drawing a blank, but yeah.
I think it was Troy, Danny Glover, Daniel Glover.
Daniel Glover,
funny. That guy was funny. So we'll go on to the.
He was a goofball in real life though. He was a bad apple basically, but that's we could do a whole episode just on him, but that's him. But
I prefer to put my head in the sand and say I like Danny when he was on that show, and that's where he is in my mind.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, that's the only way you can do that guy. So
he came up with some of the funniest lines. All right, two violence interrupters were arrested. So
ironic Thursday or something.
They shot somebody. They were shooting randomly into the street, and these are guys. So remember, in the Summer of Peace, 5 years ago, the city council's got the great idea that we didn't need cops. What we needed was community people to go in and de-escalate these systems.
Yeah.
So sending a cop in is a bad idea. And so what they said was, what we're going to do is defund the cops, and then we're going to put that funding in here, which I thought was ridiculous, because what they should be doing is they want to really do that, come up with the funding and also pay these guys on top of the cops.
Yeah.
So these are two of the guys, and they've been federally indicted in a connection to a shooting. So they're not only the solution to, but they are the cause of some of the problems.
Yeah, and the article said they were on parole, which means they weren't supposed to have guns in the first place. So they should have known that. I've known a lot of parolees, and they know that they don't have guns. So
yeah, and this just comes down to the point: you can't guilt your way to a better society. The people that put them in charge said, "Yes, it's of course we're going to do this because it's just a horrible thing." You try to make yourself feel better, and you put all your emotion into it, but what happens is you're just making it worse.
Yeah,
and then you don't know how to fix that. So you know what the solution is? Throw more money into it. And the last thing from Minnesota news, as I'm blaring through these things, trying to do this in an hour and a half show, Minneapolis had a meth discovery, 900 pounds of meth in Minneapolis, 900 pounds. So when these ICE agents are coming in, when the federal government's coming in to do these raids, it's not always about immigration. It's sometimes about child molesters who are in the area, people who are felons. And then there's also raids coming in from federal government on this kind of stuff. 900 pounds of meth taken off the streets. And it kind of reminds me of, and I don't think I have it on here, but the National News article was talking to the presidential press secretary, and they said, there's been a big drop in fentanyl in the country, and we can't explain why. And she just launched into him. She's like, of course we know why. We're finally securing our borders. That's why. You act like it's a mystery. It's not.
Right.
Okay.
But somebody just lost $22 million in profits. So
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to national news, unless you've got something else.
Nope, I threw everything I had at that.
Okay. Well, I wanted to play this, and hopefully it'll load okay. This is the difference between Canada and the United States. I was just talking to a woman about this tonight, too. So I'll play this here. Here we go.
To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. We have a gun safety class we put on every other Saturday, and if you take that, you'll shoot a lot better, and hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money.
That's the difference between Canada and the United States. I prefer the United States play.
Yeah, and that the Canadian cop had it wrong. They're not breaking into your house to steal your car keys.
Right.
That's,
yeah, exactly.
that's
But what else? Say they were. What's next? I mean, talk about appeasement. Right. I was just talking about somebody in Oregon. They'll keep, there's nothing in your car. And some of these places, I think in San Francisco, I've heard, they'll actually raise their trunks to show there's nothing in their trunk too, because they just don't want to get broken in. Otherwise they'll get broken into. This is just the natural progression. It just, okay, then just leave your keys in the front because then they can take, I'll just make sure your kids are available to them just in case, they want to take them too. Make sure you got all your money sitting out in front so they can just take that. Any kind of, it just doesn't end. There's got to be a way to stop it. Them coming through your front door and not knowing what's on the other end stops people from doing bad things.
Yeah, and Canada's really done a good job at taking away people's guns. So it makes it better for the criminals to go in and rob your house to steal anything they want. So
yes.
We'll take Florida any day of the week. You come in the house, you're gonna get shot.
Yeah, the last thing you
that's
hear,
the way it works.
The last thing you hear is going to be, well, I bet you didn't tell anybody you were coming here tonight.
Yeah.
We'll go on. There's a kid who used the term illegal alien. So he had vocabulary words during class include the word alien. She said, the woman said her son made an effort to understand the assignment and responded to his teacher asking, are you like space aliens or illegal aliens without green cards? And his words were deemed by administrative staff to be offensive and disrespectful to classmates who are Hispanic. Now, is it just me, or is it really racist to assume that when you're talking about illegal aliens, you're talking about Hispanics?
Right.
Why is that correlation being done?
Yeah, that seems more racist than what the kid was talking about.
Exactly.
Because you're automatically assuming because they have a Mexican heritage that they're illegals.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I've worked with a lot of Mexican nationals who were legal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not offensive. That doesn't, that's not, you're jumping to conclusion. The principle is not the kid.
Right. The kid was just asking a question, and it's not even an offensive question. Now it's kind of a nonsensical question unless he needs the meaning of the word as opposed to the spelling of it. Because if you're talking about the spelling, it's the same, right? It doesn't matter. But yeah, he won a lot of money for that.
That's good.
Well, it's good and bad because you know who pays for that? We do. It's not the school officials that pay for it.
Well, they should be taking it out of the teacher's salary or the principal's salary. One of the two.
Right.
That's the only way they're going to learn. So
I want to show you one of the more disturbing stories I saw. Watch out, ladies. You've got competition. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a male version of this too.
So this is our flagship humanoid AI-powered robot. She's highly realistic. She has her own social media, so she might be competing with you one day. What makes her really special is that you can talk to her and ask questions. So maybe we can have her introduce herself and say something.
Hello. I'm Aria, the flagship female companion robot of Realbotics.
What's the purpose of this?
Some of our peers in the robotic space make robots to replace human labor. We think that's a great area, but we think there's a much bigger area in having social robots. So for example, at a convention like this, we can draw a crowd very easily. Aria's been a little bit of a rock star here, with people taking pictures and coming over. So she can promote your brand. The AI is all customizable, so she can learn all about you and your brand, and she can continue to communicate to people. There's a huge epidemic amongst adolescents and seniors on loneliness. So she can be programmed to know you and learn more about you. So she can make that bond with you that feels like a genuine human connection.
So I'm going to play the rest of it. You're going to find out why. I think this is fairly amusing and frightening too. But so human companionship with a robot. If you're watching this and you can see it, her blinking is unnerving because it's slow. It looks like she's drunk. But here, so this scholar here on the right, he's going to ask the most pressing question that he could come up with. Here he goes. Oh, come on.
Houses? We don't have the ability to clean the house. They don't do physical labor, but they're more there to converse with you. It's companionship. They can actually even be a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So we have built that into our AI as well. This is Ari.
Okay. So his probing question was, can she do housework? If that was a woman he was talking to, she would have punched him straight in the face.
Right.
With good cause, too.
So,
I don't know.
so
she do housework?
So we know AI has got a long way to go because a real female, like you said, would have punched him, would have smacked him right in there.
Well, if you,
with the program that into the next one.
Let me just share this though. Just if you could see the look the robot's giving the guy, it kind of just like, what are you, idiot?
I don't do housework.
Yeah, well, just like you asked that question, and then for him to go, well, yeah, we built in they could be a boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah, maybe that's not such a good thing, and I think Futurama kind of told us why. So I'm going to show you this clip. Hopefully, this doesn't get us copyright tagged, but we'll see. Because there's a good reason for this. Futurama covered this.
Dating. It's enjoyable and it serves an important purpose. But when a human dates an artificial mate, there is no purpose, only enjoyment. And that leads to tragedy.
Neato! A Marilyn Monroe bot!
Ooh, you're a real dreamboat.
Billy every teen.
I got stopped. So they go into him making out with her, and then even
I'm over tonight. We can make out together.
Gee, Mavis, your house is across the street. That's an awfully long way to go for making out.
Did you notice what went wrong in that scene? Ordinarily, Billy would work hard to make money with his paper route. Then he'd use the money to buy dinner for Mavis, thus earning a slim chance to perform the reproductive act. But in a world where teens can date robots, why should he bother? Why should anyone bother? Let's take a look at Billy's planet a year later. Where are all the football stars?
Okay, you get the point. I'll post a link to this in the chat. So yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, obviously from the previous article, it's kind of scary. I don't know if that bot can do housework though, which is the most pressing question, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing. Cooking and cleaning.
It is funny though when I talked about this to my mom, which she's going to hate it that I mentioned her, but she does watch. She's like, I talked to her about the robot I was working on because it was meant to go into the nursing homes and talk to people with dementia and all that. She's, well, I said, maybe you can get a robot here. Will it do housework? No. Then I don't want it. So I guess maybe it was the best question. Let's see. I'm going to move on to the Terry Moran or Moron. I can't remember how you spell it or pronounce it. He was suspended for doing a tweet against Stephen Miller. Have you seen this?
Yeah, and then late last night to update your story, they did fire him.
Oh, they did fire him.
Correct.
So I looked at and I'll show a picture of him in case people don't know who it is. I've seen this guy a lot, and I'm surprised. But it's crazy that what happens to these guys? Do they forget they're supposed to be impartial? The worst thing they can do is express an opinion on political views, and the guy goes right out and does it.
And I think that was the point of firing him instead of just suspending him. Is they're supposed to be impartial, and because the mainstream media has so recently been accused of being heavy left-handed, that they're trying, they're going to do whatever they can to show that they're impartial. So if someone screws up, as this guy did, shows that he's impartial, they have to go to extremes now just to prove that they're, making an attempt to be partial. He was just going to be the first one.
I don't think that's extreme. I think that's the way it used to be. You got out of line like that and started messing around by giving your opinion as a news person, your credibility is gone. How can people watch you and think that you're trying to report the news in a steady way? It's only radical because they kind of forgot about the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I think that's why they fired him instead of just suspending him, because they're trying to protect their credibility is what I think it boiled down to. So.
Let's see. We have another thing that talks about property taxes here, and it just talks about when you go to a Democratic city and state like Minnesota, they just go to war on you with property taxes. They know you can't avoid it, and they just break you with these things. They're driving everybody out of their houses. They're driving the old people out of their houses. And so this is a pretty good article. I don't want to go into it too hard, but I will post this link as well. I post all the links for all the news stories we talk about. So a scary thing, there's been now a third Chinese person caught trying to smuggle in a pathogen or illegal biological material that is intended to make you sick and destroy crops. And they found it in the shoes of these people. These aren't people that are coming in and just mysteriously, oh, I had that in my bag. These are people intentionally trying to smuggle in biological components that will ruin our crops from China. So that's really scary to me.
Yeah, if that's not an act of war, I don't know what is.
Exactly. We'll do, let's see, just a couple more. I'm going to show this thing about digital IDs. And this is former vice president of Pfizer. And I will play it from the beginning. It's minute 11. Here we go.
We are living in a peri-tyrannical situation where there's only 2 clicks left. When you are required to have digital ID to move around and have a life, and when cashless central bank digital currencies are the only way you can buy and sell, at that point you've lost your freedom. If you follow the breadcrumbs to 2030, anyone can look up the UN 2030 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. By 2030, Britain specifically will have no commercial passenger aircraft leaving the country. You will not be able to leave. There will be no ships leaving the country. You will not own private transport. You will have a digital ID to do everything, and you will only have electronic money with which to transact. I would say at that point you are a slave, and because you can see them coming, you should say no. Say no right now. Stop. The things that are happening are really fantastic, but they go back decades. There's no question that there's been a very long run-up to the level of control that we are going to face if we allow cash to be winked out of existence.
And that's the main thing is you'll see that if you get rid of cash, then the government knows exactly everything you're doing, every single how to tax you in every single situation, control what you're doing. And they proved it up in Canada when they were striking because when the truckers were striking against what the government was doing, the COVID laws, the government just froze all their accounts. So they couldn't do anything. They couldn't even feed their family. So what he was talking about is we have in America, we have to make sure that our freedoms aren't being thrown away just because, the government wants to go to a cashless society. I believe there was a European country that tried it. I think it was Sweden or Norway. They tried to go cashless, and it failed miserably because the people just completely knew that they had lost all their freedoms. The government had full control over absolutely everything they're doing. This guy was basically, he was just coming up with a warning saying, we better not go down that road. Otherwise the government will, obviously completely destroy everything you want, everything you do, control the taxes, control your income taxes, federal tax. And then when they want to raise taxes, how quickly they can do that. And it's just a horribly bad situation. So as we need to, the theme of basically is that we've been running today was, the city council isn't representing you. Your Duluth House representatives aren't representing you. We don't want to we got to make sure we keep, people like Stauber in the office that are representing you, that will do the right things. Because if they continue down this cashless society, that's the end of everything. Basically all your freedoms.
Right. All right. We're going to go on to international news. You ready, Dave?
Oh yeah. Oh.
All right. So
yeah, we're still on national.
Yeah. 131. We got to get through this now.
Yep.
Remittance tax. So the Mexican president, and this may be older news, but this has came up since the last show. The Mexican president is urging Mexicans to protest in the United States. If necessary, we'll mobilize. We don't want taxes on remittances from our it's getting late, fellow countrymen from the U.S. to Mexico. So the response from Eric Schmidt was, I thought, pretty good, and I will present it. If I can find it.
It's late, so you might be tired.
The House's big, beautiful bill addressed the urgent need for a remittance tax, but we can go further. I'm introducing legislation to quadruple the proposed remittance tax from 3.5 to 15%. So America is not the world's piggy bank, and we don't like take kindly to threats. Yeah, so the Mexican president telling people to protest us for suggesting that we tax the money being drained out of this country and going down to Mexico is ridiculous. And I think this is the right response. You want to play that game? We're going to quadruple it. So good job on his part. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I used to know a person that worked at the Kmart desk, what do you call it, customer service desk. And they would, on a daily basis, be sending money orders down to Mexico.
Yes.
And,
oh, yeah.
Daily, and it was huge money. So, that's a completely fair tax to get up to 15%. So,
yeah. Last thing under international news I'm going to put on here is the UK is really, something's happening. Now, I don't have firsthand knowledge, so could all this be wrong, but apparently gov.uk says terrorist ideologies, extreme right wing. We define extreme right wing terrorism as the active or vocal support of ideologies that advocate discrimination or violence against minority groups. So right wing is already now majority groups, not minority groups. Three most subcategories of extreme right wing terrorist ideologies. Cultural nationalism. Western culture is under the threat from mass migration and lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups. If you believe that, you are a terrorist. White ethno-nationalism. Mass migration from the non-white world and demographic changes poses an existential threat to the white race and Western culture. So remember, this is about being right wing, but it sounds a lot like what it means to be a racist. And in the UK, that is against the law.
Yeah.
And then white supremacism. White race is biologically, culturally, and spiritually superior to all other races. That is racism right there. And again, there's all the races have some form of this. And it's not only wrong on its face value, but it's legal in the United States, because why should we have to tell people that it's not right? You can have that opinion if you like it. Don't ever attack somebody because of it.
Right.
I don't care what race you are. I've known people of every race, and I've never found that one race is less than another. It's just that some people are stupid. That regardless.
Yeah. Regardless of race, they're stupid. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. That's my international segment. What do you think, Dave? Anything else?
No, we covered a lot today.
Yeah.
Covered a lot today, definitely.
So let's go into health and fitness. I actually got one thing I'm going to pop at the bottom of this, but exercise helps with stopping cancer recurrence. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, they've finally proven with a scientific study, because we're all about science on this, that if you get cancer and it goes into remission, they cure it. They found that the more you exercise, the less chance of it coming back.
Okay.
So if you have cancer, or if you had cancer in the past, you need to exercise, because that will massively decrease the reoccurrence of it coming back. And that's what the study showed.
Oh, that's good to know.
So it finally proven. So, we talk at the end of each show about health and fitness. It's now it's basically somewhat proven that it's healthy for you. So
yeah,
definitely get in, do your exercises, go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, do something, get your body moving. So
yeah.
Eat properly. So
the nice thing about talking with Adam Schwarze too was he's still active. He's an ex-military guy. And of course, being 17, 18 years in the military and being Navy SEAL and all that other stuff, he's in good shape to begin with, but he's still in good shape and he still goes out and does stuff. And I appreciate that. I like people that work out. I'm going to show a video here of, this is what you would call a non-traditional physique doing gymnastics. And I'm not going to have sound on it because there's a copyrighted song. I got to say, I'm impressed. And this is exactly what we talk about is, it doesn't matter how big you are, small you are, or what you look like. When you go out there and do your job. Go get this woman is out there being active, doing a great thing. And the whole thing, I'm going to put the link on it. It's pretty impressive. I couldn't do what she just did. Strong woman. So
very strong.
Get out there and do something. Even if it's small, it can be very big for your life. So hats off to her for doing it. And I've heard people talk about, and I've never actually seen this, about people snickering about people being at the gym and not doing it. I have never seen anybody snicker at anybody being at the gym, because you know what? They're at the gym. They're doing something. There's no mocking of any of that. The only thing I've ever seen is people helping people that look like they're going to hurt themselves. But, I'm really...
Yeah, you're right. I've never seen any of that. It's always, the gym community has always been pretty, and I might probably inclusive is the wrong word, but everyone's been very helpful and very polite, and making sure everyone, no one gets hurt. They just, no snickering. Yeah, they're just.
Well, we did mock a guy named Suntan, but that was because he used to go to the weight bench, put all the weights on the bar, lay on the bench, grab the bar, not have to lift it, walk away, and then sooner or later take the weights off again. So
so the only exercise he got was unloading the bar, basically. So.
Right. But then he got massive. Remember that?
No, I
he
don't
started taking steroids and he got big quickly. I'm gonna mention something that's not on the list here, but I went to the beef farming company today and got some ground beef. It's from a local farm in Duluth. It's up Race Lake Road. Super nice girl that works there. We had a great conversation, but we're going to try that out. see how it tastes. And I look forward to it because I'm sure it's going to taste really good. But I'll give you an update next week when I've actually gotten into actually eating some of the ground beef. And then I bought a couple steaks too. So really nice place though. And I think it's good to support the local people who are growing. You know, they're doing this themselves. They got the cattle, you know what's in them. They're super nice people. You want to support them. So I will try that out, and I'm going to give you an honest assessment of what I think about it next week.
Yeah, I think the only other health and fitness is the hacking attack at one of the local grocery stores down in the cities. There was a hack at UNFI, UNFI, that they supply food for nationwide, mostly, and locally it's Super Value and Cub Foods. So you will see shortages until they get this hacking situation straightened out and get back on. So we're only talking a week or two where you're going to see some products that aren't showing up on schedule. This completely means don't panic. There's still food there. It's just going to be delayed until they straighten out this hacking attack.
Yep.
So, you know, it's not a big problem. Nothing to worry about. The food is still at the business, because I know someone that works there. They know the food is still there. It's just taking it more time to get to the grocery store. So
yeah, good advice. Yeah,
keep your head. No panicking. It'll straighten itself out. Give it a couple weeks.
All right. I think that does it. 141. What do you think? We did a pretty good job.
Yeah, that was a lot of information to shove in a short period of time. So
it was. Thank you for joining us, the people that watched. I know we had watchers this time. Sorry, Shaka. Thank you. Maui no Kai. Duluth no Kai. That's Duluth's conservative saying. Have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Let's make it a great weekend. It's summer months. We don't get many of these nice weekends. So I hope you all enjoy it. Once again, I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
This is Duluth Conservative, and we will see you next week.